Yep. Good morning, everyone. Gonna wait for some friends to tune in. Meanwhile, you can get a good look at our mascot here, keeping us company while the zoo is closed. High five. All right. Not seeing any friends joining us yet, but that's okay. We might have a little bit of a lag. So good morning. Just gonna hang out with our bear friend until we've got some friends joining us. There we go. I'm seeing some numbers. If you can hear me all right and see me all right, if you want to give me some thumbs up or some hearts, write some comments so I know who to say hello to this fine morning. How's everyone doing? Let's see. Yay! Excellent. Oh, good morning, guys. Oh, you're making my day. All right. Well, welcome back to the Buttonwood Park Zoo. It's a slightly drizzly Sunday out there, so we're gonna have another fun day inside looking at some of our indoor enclosures, and I am officially very excited. Gotta have a good pun, so hopefully you know what's coming. But before we get started with our animals, I have a very exciting announcement to make. If you tuned in with us yesterday, you saw Emily the elephant create an absolutely breathtaking masterpiece. And we promised that in the next 24 hours, one of our lucky donors would win that painting. So you guys absolutely delivered. We had 26 donors, totaling $495 for our Buttonwood Park Emergency Operating Fund. Thank you so much. The Buttonwood Park Zoological Society is our nonprofit branch, and we rely on being open to make money. So you guys are really, really helping us. So without further ado, our lucky winner for Emily's beautiful masterpiece is, drumroll at home, Carly Mason. Well done, Carly. Thank you for your generous support, and you are now the proud winner of a beautiful elephant masterpiece. So thank you so much, everyone who donated. The 26 of you are absolutely incredible. You are amazing, and thank you so much. Now, on to our fish-tastic adventure. So we're gonna say goodbye to our lovely bear mascot, and we're gonna meander on over to one of my very favorite exhibits in this entire zoo. So let me turn this around. If I can remember how phones work, that would be neat. What? Oh man, this is embarrassing. I'm trying to figure out how this works. What? What? There we go. He's helping out. There we go. Thanks, Kyle.
No problem.
Kyle here to save the day. All right, Kyle, I'm looking at your face right now. You want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. How are you doing today?
This is distracted, that's all right. All right, so we're here at one of my favorite tanks. This is our defense tank, and Kyle is gonna be telling you about a bunch of different species living in here, all of whom have amazing ways of not getting eaten in the wild. So, without further ado, take it away. Tell me who you want me to focus on.
Thank you guys. So we're gonna actually start with one of them that are not fish. So we're gonna look up at this corner right over here.
Oh, I'm in that.
So, can you guys see that spiky ball? Can I have some thumbs up if you see that big long spiky ball? If not, we can try a different angle. I'm getting some hearts. I guess that works. Okay, so the big spiky guy that you're sitting on the wall right there, that is a long-spined sea anemone. And obviously it's not hard to guess what his defenses are. It's those big, long spines. The cool thing about them too is they're also venomous. So if you got hit by one of those spines, you would get a nasty, nasty sting. Not sing. You wouldn't have to sing. You would just get stung. So they're a super, super cool type of invertebrate that we actually have in this tank because he loves to eat algae. So he'll move around slowly but surely, and he'll eat all the algae up off all the rocks. And the reason we got such a big, spiky, strong guy like that is a lot of the defensive fish that we have in this tank love to eat invertebrates. So an invertebrate would be like a crab or a shrimp or even a sea urchin like that. So these guys, we have to be very careful about who we put with them as far as the fish go and the invertebrates, because they have defenses, but they're also pretty good at eating other things. So that's a better look at them right there. And so you guys can get a good, so you guys can get a better idea. See my finger? I'm kind of pointing right at him. He's right there. He goes all the way out to here. So it's a pretty big animal that we're looking at right there. And that is our long-spined sea urchin here at the Buttonwood Park Zoo in our defense tank. So then if we pan over to our right,
What are we looking at next?
We're going to be looking at some of our fish. So one of them's coming to say hello right now. That is our striped burr fish, which is a super duper cool fish that we have right here. Actually, they do pop up sometimes in Massachusetts in the summertime, but they're definitely much more of a tropical fish. They'll swim back around here a little bit, and their cool defense is that they actually have spines, along with, as you guys probably already guessed, they puff up. So if he were to get scared, or somebody tried to eat them, they're able to inflate their bodies to almost 2 to 3 times the size, depending on the species of pufferfish. And they fill that full of water. If they are out of the water, they can fill themselves full of air, but then they become more like a balloon. And they are able to not be swallowed at that point. That's the whole point of puffing up, is because you look way bigger, and it's very, very hard to swallow you when you just all of a sudden are 2 to 3 times as big as you were before. So, and that's another one of those fish that I said, the reason we have that long spined sea urchin. Pufferfish have beaks, almost like a parrot. So they can actually bite through crab shells, and if you guys see all the bottom, all those broken mussel shells are on the bottom. That's from our pufferfish. We have 2 species of pufferfish in this tank, and they will just absolutely annihilate mussel shells or anything like that and crunch straight through it. All right, so we're gonna keep going on, look at some other fish friends. We actually have one right in the back right there, behind the grass. That is a blue reef chromis. So those guys love to school up, and that's their defense. They'll sit in the ocean in big, big schools. A bunch of them will all hang out together in a relatively small area, and they will have safety in numbers. So the more of you there are, the less likely you are to get eaten. So that's their really cool defense. Not one that people think about all the time, but definitely one that a lot of fish employ. And if we are getting any questions while I'm talking, feel free to just interrupt me, Sarah.
We are, and we've got to jump back a little bit to our buddy right over here.
The burrfish. Oh, we're getting our fish from the back.
Burrfish friend. Sorry, yeah, you can see me. Sorry about that. So our first question about the burrfish is, why does it have those black dots on the side? From Noah, age 3.
So that's just part of its markings. It kind of helps break up his pattern just a little bit, but it's just the way that they kind of will identify that, hey, I'm another striped burrfish, you're a striped burrfish, we can hang out together because we're the same.
Excellent. And I love this comment. I've noticed this before too. It does look like he's smiling, doesn't it, Patty?
Oh yeah, they are the cutest little things. They're awesome. I love them. These guys, if you actually want to see a really cool video, there is a pufferfish that was trained at a zoo or aquarium. Just type it right into YouTube and you can see some awesome, cute, awesome pufferfish.
Excellent. Logan, age 8, has a great question about what do they eat?
So this species, the burrfish, will eat any sort of invertebrate. Here at the zoo, we'll give them shrimp, we'll give them mussels, we'll give them squid, we'll also give them a gel, which is really, really fortified and full of vitamins and other things that they really, really need. Not their favorite, but they do like it from time to time. But pretty much anything that has a shell, these guys love to go after. Snails, all that stuff.
Excellent. Kaiden, age 9, is wondering if they're venomous.
Not all species of pufferfish are venomous, so these guys are not. But I can tell you, those spines will put a hurt on you. They hurt a lot if you were to grab them very quickly. They're pretty much like little knives, in all honesty. You'll bleed from them, so they're not venomous, but you don't want to touch them still.
Oh my goodness, that would not be a super fun day.
No.
Hi Tegan, I miss you too. You're sweet. And I think we had some good comments about everyone saying that they love these tanks. Diana, we love these tanks too. Yeah. They are absolutely wonderful, aren't they?
Thank you guys. It's always nice to hear that the hard work that we put into these fish tanks goes and you guys appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan, age 12, excellent question. Do any of the species in this tank fight each other?
So there is dominance in this tank. Just like any other social system, you're gonna have a dominant fish versus the other ones. And it's not always the biggest fish. The dominant fish in this tank, we're actually gonna see him here in a little bit. They don't really fight in what you guys are thinking, but there is one that will eat first and he'll chase the other ones off the food, but we give enough food for everybody and that they're all happy. That yellow guy that's swimming up right now, that's his name's Butters. That's our spot fin butterfly. He is actually the dominant fish in this tank, so he is the boss.
All right, let's go see the boss.
Yeah, we can talk about Butters for a while.
Let's talk about Butters.
So Butters is really cool. Like I said, he's a spot fin butterfly. They're a type of fish that live in the tropical waters in the Atlantic. So you're talking like the Caribbean Ocean and things like that. But Butters was actually found right here in New Bedford. So there was one summer where a buddy of ours at the zoo was diving. He works at another aquarium. And he found Butters near his dock. So he actually scooped him up and put him in the fish tank at his house because he knew that Butters wouldn't be able to survive the winter. So Butters is what we call a seasonal migrant, or he comes up with the Gulf Stream. So he comes up in the summertime, and unfortunately they come up as babies. So Butters was really, really small. He is still kind of small. And he would not have been able to survive the winter. So it was very, very lucky that our friend stumbled upon him and was able to put him in his tank at his house and kept Butters alive, because otherwise Butters would have passed away. And he's kind of showing off his defense right now. He's got those really, really wicked spines on the top of his body. So if anybody tried to eat Butters, he would poke him with those spines, which would hurt quite a bit. And once again, Butters is a spot fin butterfly, which is really, really cool, beautiful fish. But you can see him patrolling around, making sure everybody knows he's the big boss. Even though there are fish that are double his size, he is definitely head honcho here in this tank.
Very cool story. Now Tegan is actually wondering if any of the others have stories like that and if any of them have names.
So the others don't really have names. Butters, the only reason he has a name is because he came to us with that name. That's what the guy we got him from named him. None of these other fish are rescues. The pufferfish, who is kind of above you guys right there, which we can talk about in a little bit, I did get him when he was about the size of a pea, so he was a little itty bitty baby, and I found him in a spot where he probably wouldn't have done super duper well, so I was able to raise him up here at the zoo. So he's kind of like Butters, but he probably wouldn't have passed away. Maybe, maybe not. Butters definitely would have. So none of these guys are rescues aside from Butters.
Now we have a couple of questions about Butters that I love. Kaiden Age 9 is wondering, how old is Butters?
So that's a great question. It's very, very hard to tell because the size of a fish is dependent on the tank size, temperature, how much you feed them, stuff like that. So Butters was in a fish tank for quite some time before we got him, which is fine. That's saved his life, so that's good. But these guys can grow to be almost the size of a hubcap, so about 10 inches long or so. And Butters clearly is not that big, and he was in that tank for years. So
And how long has he been with us?
He's been with us for about a year, maybe almost 2 years now.
And
he's definitely grown a lot bigger while he's been here at the zoo. This tank's a little bit bigger than the tank. All right, so our internet's popping in and out, so I apologize for that, guys, but we're gonna try our best to continue. The otolith is that ear bone that has rings in it, just like a tree, and that's how you can age a fish. When it passes away, you can count those rings under a microscope, and it'll tell you exactly how old the fish is, because each year the fish throws down a ring, and that's how you age it.
That's a great question. Now Noah was wondering why Butters has that black dot on the back of him.
That's actually how he got his name, the spot fin butterfly, because he has that little spot on his fin. Again, it's just kind of like a display thing. It could also be, here's my eye, try to bite that instead of my face. But it could be also, oh, just to tell everybody else that he is a spot fin butterfly.
For all of our science fans at home, you're getting some really interesting glimpses into refraction.
Oh yeah.
And the way that glass is gonna change how you can see this tank. We do have some angles in our glass that make it look like these fish are magically appearing and disappearing.
So this tank was actually graciously donated to us by a pet store that was unfortunately going out of business. And it does have some fun angles, which makes it fun to look at, but kind of hard to film and follow fish all the time. So in case we lose connection again, guys, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start feeding these fish in this tank. That way you guys can get a good look at everybody. We're gonna keep talking about the fish. That's actually our northern puffer, which is a local species here that Sarah's on. You're gonna see him going nuts. He loves getting fed. He's already excited for it. So if you guys have questions while we're feeding them, feel free to ask. If not, I'm gonna continue just kind of talking.
We actually have a few great questions. I'm gonna back up enough to try and, sorry, that was Kyle saving me from hitting my head. And back up enough so we can see all of them in the feeding frenzy that's about to ensue.
Yeah, so if you guys see where they're giving them pieces of chopped up shrimp, shell on, that way they can actually work on their beaks, and you'll see them just pop right through it and tear it apart. So the northern puffer, he's always eager McBeaver to eat. That's because he's from around here, And these guys have to deal with the winter time, so they're always equipped to try to eat as much as possible, whenever possible, because they don't know when their next meal is going to come from. The birdfish, they live in little more tropical areas, so they're not as aggressively trying to eat everything all the time. But there's enough food for everybody, so even if you see butters or the northern puffer, take a piece of food. I have a full cup and then some for everybody to get their pieces, so everybody will enjoy it.
Logan is wondering if they have a favorite keeper.
I'm tempted to say me, but I know that's not true. They don't really have a favorite keeper. They can recognize people, without a doubt. So if somebody who wasn't one of the aquarists that work with them comes by, they're not going to really pay much attention. But if myself or one of the other people that work with them comes by, they definitely swim right up to the glass and they're trying to figure out what we're doing, or if we were to put our hands over the top, they definitely come right over and they're looking around trying to figure out what we are. So I'm actually going to try to give you guys a really cool view real quick. Just because this is one of the few tanks that I can actually do this. Whoop. So this is what we see when we actually work on the tank. This is the upper view. You're looking straight down on everybody. So there's that birdfish that I was telling you about. There is the northern puffer right over there. And this is what the top view of a tank looks like. Really cool. I just wanted to do that real quick.
All right, now Tegan was wondering if there were varieties of pufferfish that cannot unpuff once they've puffed up.
So no, once they puff up, they can unpuff pretty much every single one. Actually, every single one. The only time they can't unpuff, which does sometimes happen, this guy right here, the northern puffer, he's a fish that a lot of fishermen who are trying to catch other things will catch from time to time. And if they catch him and he puffs up in air, and the person is not paying attention and throws them back in the water, well, like I said, they turn into basically a balloon because they're full of air. And then they have a very hard time unpuffing because they can't get back underwater. So that's the only time that they really can't unpuff, is if they get filled with air and tossed back in the water.
Oh, that sounds scary.
Yeah, it's not. So if you guys ever come across one of these northern puffers and it does puff up on you, if it's out of water, just all you have to do is kind of hold him underneath the water and he'll burp up all those bubbles, and then he can swim away nice and peacefully. If he puffs up in the water, great. Just let him go and let him do his thing, because if he puffs up, that means he's gotten nervous, he's gotten scared, so you let him just kind of move away, be peaceful.
Yeah, that's why we don't like to see our animals puff up in tanks. That means we're stressing them out, so hopefully you guys don't get to see that, even though it is a pretty cool thing they can do. Now, Patrick is wondering the average lifespan for a northern puffer in captivity versus in the wild.
So
it's a great question.
The northern puffer is not a species that has been observed in the wild for very long. They're not a species of concern. They're not a species of commercial interest, really. So their lifespan in the wild isn't really fully tested or understood. And not a lot of places have them in tanks. I've heard some places say they can have them for... I've had him for about 3 years. Some places say they can have him for longer, about 10-ish, give or take, maybe a little bit more. But when it comes to fish, guys, in all honesty, if it's not a fish of commercial value, which means that people don't want to eat it, people don't really put them in their fish tanks, and people don't use them for anything, they are not studied as often, unless they're like a super charismatic fish that everybody loves and things like that. So the northern puffer is a species that there's tons of them all over the place. They're not studied very often, so there's not too much information out there about them. We know a decent amount, but not super specifics like other fish.
Interesting.
Hopefully that answered that question. I know it was a little long, but...
Noah's wondering, why do you have coral in this tank?
So we don't have any coral in this tank. If we did, the birdfish, butters, and the puffer would actually eat it. So would our triggerfish, which... He's actually up top over there.
I don't think we've met him yet.
We haven't met him yet. He's pretty cool, but we don't have any coral. We have live rock. So this is just rock that you would see that the coral will grow on. But if we had actual coral in the tank, these guys would chomp it down because they love to eat those things that have shells, which like coral, they are animals and they live in shells. So they would chew them up real quick.
Oh dear.
That's why we put the grass in here, because a lot of these fish are found on the edge of the coral reefs, in the grass beds, or just in grass beds in general.
Cool.
And that triggerfish, that's our blue-throated triggerfish. He's a male, and he is actually a super cool fish. His defense is, it's called wedging, which is something that's really cool. He actually has 2 spines on the top of his head and on the bottom of his body. And what he'll do is he'll actually go into a rock in the middle of the night, throw those spines out, and it makes them almost impossible to pull out. So if anybody tried to eat him, they wouldn't be able to get him out of his little hidey hole where he's feeling safe. They also have a nasty bite and a big beak too, so they love to eat invertebrates like crabs and shrimp and things like that too.
Kaiden's wondering if you could reintroduce us. Oop, got caught on a net. If you could reintroduce us to our lovely bluefish right here.
Oh, this guy, that is our blue reef chromis. So they're a type of fish that schools up. They're kind of common in fish tanks. A lot of people have them around, but they are still a super, super cool little fish. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, friends, so we've got some time. I'm gonna keep trying to pan. Hopefully I'm not making you seasick here. I'm gonna step back and give you a nice big look at this middle section here. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask them now. We got a little bit more time left. Kyle, you can wave and we can see in the reflection.
Oh, hi everybody. So yeah, as you guys are seeing, this tank is kind of long and not super tall, but that's a tank design that we really liked for these fish. They're not going to really be wanting a lot of vertical height like the seahorses did, or like the clownfish. They love those high vertical tanks, things like that. These fish prefer a lot of bottom surface area where there's going to be a lot of spaces for them to poke around, to look, swim in and out of the rocks, poke at the rocks, things like that. So this tank actually looks a lot smaller than it is. It's very, very deep in the back and it's super long, which is a nice tank to have.
Excellent. Now Tegan is wondering how long these fish live. Now I don't know if we have a general idea about how old some of these can or cannot live.
So yeah, when it comes to fish, every single fish kind of lives at different ages and different lifespans, things like that. The burrfish, from what I was reading and understanding, they're probably about a little over 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. The chromises, 5-6 years, maybe a little bit longer, depending. Butters, once again, you're looking at 10 years. The northern puffer we already talked about, we don't really know, so. But yeah, about 10 years, give or take, if they're healthy and happy, obviously.
Focus on the one that seems to be smiling on the healthy and happy there, huh?
The burrfish, yeah, they're super cool. They're awesome little fish.
Patty, we can't wait to have you and your grandson back here when we reopen as well. Diana, I'm so glad you're enjoying these. We love doing them. We love having you here for them. And shout out to Beth. Thank you so much for donating. You are helping us so much, and we really appreciate it. We've got time for just a few more questions if you'd like. I'm going to just keep following these lovely guys around. But if you have any last-minute questions, now's the time. I hope you've officially learned a lot. It was bad enough it needed to be said again, I thought.
I love it. I love it.
Do fish sleep? What a good question.
Fish do sleep. Some fish will actually lay on the bottom and sleep. Some fish will actually make a cocoon out of slime, cover themselves in that and sleep. Some fish have, like a great white shark, has to keep swimming all the time, but they sleep by shutting off almost half their brain and then keep going. So fish do sleep. They all sleep in different ways though.
Very cool. Patrick is wondering if you have to do anything to the water to maintain the health of the animals in the tank. Oh, absolutely. That is Kyle's whole day, every day.
So you guys just saw me feeding the fish, which is probably the smallest, funnest, easiest thing that I do. The rest of it is actually all underneath the tank. There's a whole set of pipes and filtration system and all sorts of other stuff that I have to manage on a daily basis to make sure it's running fine. We have to test the water for a lot of different things to make sure that it's exactly where we need it for the fish to be. There's a lot that goes into fish tanks, and the more complicated you get, the more exotic the fish become, the less hardy the fish become, which means that they can't tolerate as many swings in the water chemistry. The more you have to pay attention to it. So yeah, there's a lot more than to the water than just the fish.
Very cool. Yeah, he's doing some good work here.
What we do besides just feeding the fish and talking about the fish could be a whole nother 3 chats in on it itself, but I think I'd have 2 viewers for that.
Oh dear. Well, we appreciate you. Noah, the zoo misses you as well. Oh, Kelsey, we miss you too. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in to our defense tank video here. Thank you so much, Zookeeper Kyle, for telling us all about these amazing fish.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Love talking about the fish.
Absolutely. We're so happy you guys are joining us, and we're so happy to be able to do this. If you're enjoying coming to these, please feel free to continue tuning in at 11 a.m. every single day. You can tune in with me tomorrow for a surprise animal that we haven't gotten to see yet in these chats, so hopefully we'll have some fun. And as always, we always appreciate your donations. So the Buttonwood Park Zoological Society is the nonprofit arm of the Buttonwood Park Zoo, and all of our money comes from having people here and running programs, all sorts of things that we can no longer do with the zoo being closed. So if you're having a lot of fun and you feel like you'd like to donate some money, we would greatly appreciate it. You can either click the donate button below, or you can text BPZoo20 to the number 41444, and we certainly appreciate it. You guys are really helping us stay afloat, so to speak. And on that lovely pun, thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.